Well, since you mentioned it, Trevor Cooney is making his second consecutive start in the backcourt for Long Island. Head coach Ronald Nored. And as for Westchester, our halftime guest this afternoon is Joey Miller, who's playing in his 25th game and making his first start due to the recent injuries for Westchester.
The most guys standing wins the game. How about that?
It will be a war of attrition. 8 versus 8 tonight, as Kevin Capers takes the opening tip off glass for 2.
So we'll be seeing a couple of teams with tired legs by the end of this one in all likelihood.
R.J. Hunter in and out. Weak side rebound, Travis Trice. The only natural scorer still left for Westchester in the starting lineup. A wild reverse attempt is rebounded and put back in by Keith Wright.
These two teams meeting for the 4th time this season. Long Island's won 2 of 3, and a foul called here on Westchester as Alexander rolls to the hoop. Cliff Alexander, a guy who has put up huge numbers this season, averaging 20 points, 9.5 rebounds. Really been one of the better players in the D-League this season. At least when he has played, has only been with Long Island for a fraction of the year. Now, we should point out to you folks at home that last time out, my partner David Resnick promised that we would hand out our seasonal awards during the broadcast today.
I did make that promise, and we'll spend a lot of time in the second half of this game looking back on the season as a whole, having larger discussions about the players that came and went, those that stood out. For head coach Mike Miller, wrapping up his second year as the head man of the Westchester Knicks. So a bit of a hybrid broadcast where we'll, of course, pay attention to what is in front of us, but also spend some considerable time looking back and recapping the year that was. Cliff Alexander has all 5 for Long Island, and it sounds like you've done some homework over the last couple of days, thinking about some of these answers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I don't want to rush to judgment on any of these awards.
Joey Miller slicing through the paint. Long Island with a 1-point lead. Here's Trevor Cooney on the bounce. Dallo misses a point-blank attempt. Capers misfires from the mid-range. Defense is hard to come by in the league, and on the final Saturday of the regular season between a pair of teams that are not playoff bound, I think we'll be testing to see if this scoreboard can handle triple digits on both sides.
Okay, well, that'll be a nice switch.
Miller's open for 3, missing both shot attempts so far.
Westchester has struggled offensively. Wow, that would be a 4-pointer if they put another line down.
That's Curry range, right?
That really was Curry range. Westchester struggled offensively much of the year. Long Island, one of the worst defensive teams in the D-League, so could be a good recipe for a big output by the Knicks here this afternoon.
Only took a couple of minutes for things to get a little loosey. Bond missing the turnaround, getting the spot start today as Deron Lamb, who started on Thursday, is out with an injury, along with John Jenkins and Damian Inglis. Von Wafer inactive this afternoon for Westchester.
Also an opportunity for guys that normally are not all that offensive-minded to be more so, which we've seen second half of the year anyway. Guys like Keith Wright, Jalen Bond, putting up more shots from deep.
Pick and roll into Wright, fumbles it initially. He gets his own miss and puts Westchester in front.
It's interesting, you look at the 5 guys out on the floor right now. Oh, beautiful head fake that time and a nice duck-in move as Boris Dallo gets inside. But you look at the 5 on the floor for Westchester. Keith Wright might be offensive option number 2 here as he gets it as we speak and hasn't stripped away stolen by Cooney.
Cooney with the mismatch goes coast to coast. Trevor Cooney with the lay-in.
Boy, end-to-end action.
Wright spins into the defense. Cooney reaching in. And the foul committed by Cliff Alexander.
You look at a guy like Keith Wright, David, at one point, both earlier this year and last, he would have been option number 5 many times, literally, and now he's suddenly moved up the depth chart. There he is, matched up with Alexander, as he is the second option. But Keith has become a better scorer, so it's not that far-fetched. Fighting for position on the mismatch with Cooney here.
Trice over Alexander, who picked up the guard off the switch.
But the two real scorers in there for each team, Trice and Alexander, they could go for who knows how many in a game like this.
Boris Dallo. This is Alexander's taking a step back and draws the whistle on the drive to the hoop.
I thought he took an extra step back, but that's just me. Ronald Norred, the former Bulldog of Butler, who played for then coach Brad Stevens and went to those 2 national championship games. Protege of Coach Stevens, now with the Celtics, of course. What a year they're having, huh? They could wind up with the #1 seed over the Cavs. People questioning, of course, whether the Cavs are interested in the #1 seed based on all the resting that's been done.
From a D-League standpoint with Boston, they had so many draft picks last year.
All those #2s.
All those 2s, guys that were signed. Nader that went draft right straight to the D-League. They had another player that was overseas just reporting to Maine for a couple of games down the stretch as the Red Claws are playoff bounds. They have assets. All these draft picks. Thrown up to the rim as Alexander tries to convert. And now they're challenging for the #1 seed. So they have a good record. They have assets. They have draft picks. It's amazing what they're building there. And the success that Maine has had over the last 3 years with 3 straight division titles.
Yeah, very good point, David, about the synchronicity there, because Maine has been able to win here while Boston has been able to win at the NBA level in recent years. And, you know, the Celtics have had such a deep team. They've used so many guys over these last couple of seasons as they've rebuilt that the guys who have starred for them, like a Nader and some others, Jordan Mickey on occasion last season, they can't get in the Boston lineup.
Travis Trice. 4 points for Travis. Westchester trails by a deuce. Trevor Cooney has the long rebound, fed inside, and Cliff Alexander throws it down with the right-handed pump.
Cliff Alexander, tough to stop inside, especially when you get a high percentage shot like that. There's Wright hoisting from deep, so probably see a lot of that type of thing today, uncharacteristically, as that one goes out of bounds and Westchester will take over. So we're ready at 14. You are right. It is a lot of up and down, and I don't think we'll be talking much about defense here today. But you know what? Game 50, why not?
Already we've seen some players institute in the gym range. 8 on the timer. Keith Wright with the advantage over Cooney. Wright goes to the block, regathers and puts it in on the other side of the rim. Long Island wants to call timeout even with a 2-point lead. We are near playoffs on a losing streak. They have secured their 3rd straight division title. They will be the #2 seed, while Westchester and Long Island jockeying for position further down the division list.
So Maine in the midst of a 4-game losing streak and making it dramatic down the stretch, but able to hang on the loss by Delaware. Delaware nearly pulled off a near miracle.
We'll take a look at the Eastern Conference playoff standings, our next time out, to let you know what you can look forward to the rest of the month of April. Wright, the rebound. Miller, pull up, floater short, gets his own miss. Kick out Capers off the back of the iron. Tristan Burrell gets undercut.
Prince eBay wearing number 0, checking into the lineup at 6'10" for Long Island. Do you know, Dave, that when The legendary Bob Shepard was the public address announcer for so many decades at Yankee Stadium that when a visiting player wore 0 on his uniform, he would not mention the number. Do you know why?
Because 0 is an integer and not a number?
That is correct, Mr. Syracuse Orange man.
No, I credit that to New Rochelle High School. You got to go further back. Proper Shepard, really?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've noticed, and while we think of this individual with high esteem, he's not quite at Bob Shepard's level. Mark Fratto also doesn't say number 0, he just says 0 during his pregame introductions, or at any point. We are unloading every fact we got today.
In fact, you might be right, actually, now that I think about it. I guess Bob Shepard would do the same. He would just say 0, but not number 0. And, of course, there aren't many guys in baseball that have worn 0 over the years. I remember one, and I don't know why I remember that. I guess because he wore 0. Oh, what a move by Trice. And then off the scramble, it's Bond able to hit inside. Odabe McDowell of the Texas Rangers was a big 0 guy, Dave.
Was that who you had a poster of in your Brooklyn bedroom growing up?
There were. Al Oliver also wore 0. And they both played for Texas at one time or another. The steal by Capers nearly, but restolen by Hunter.
Looks to the block. Dallo gets blocked. Burrell is right there on the redirection. Long Island by 4 here in the first quarter.
A couple more substitutions ready to come on for Long Island, including Tim Quarterman, who does not start, but yet comes off the bench and provides big numbers, averaging 12 points, 7 assists, 6 rebounds, and nearly 2 steals per game. Always fills up the stat sheet. We've seen him in action.
Miller's pass deflected. Dallo had the redirection as Trice speeds into the front court, and Jalen Bond, the recipient of a bullet pass to the block.
Fabulous job by Trice, and talk about having your wind. He raced for that ball and then raced back up the other way, trying to play beat the clock, and made the nice feed underneath.
Burrell softly got into the paint and floated it up and in.
But to do what Trice did that last trip, to really be in great shape.
Capers pivots, flips it up, no. Jalen Bond, another rebound, and spins to the block for the putback.
So Jalen off to a great start. 6 points, 5 boards already through the first 8 minutes or so.
Great opportunity for Jalen to see a lot of minutes with only 8 dressing this afternoon for Westchester.
Jovanovic could make a dent today. Look at Bond ahead of the field off the beautiful feed from who else but Travis Trice, and Bond now has 8 in this first quarter.
Says a lot about Jalen Bond stepping up into this opportunity and hustling. This could be an opportunity for him that produces the film to get him on a summer league team, or a different opportunity as eBay clangs it off the iron and out of play. And so we have harped on the idea that somebody is always watching, and so far it appears that Jalen Bond is subscribing to that theory.
And Jalen's game has really opened up a bit as the season has gone on. Was more of a rebounded defender almost exclusively. Rarely even shot the ball in the early going this year, you'll recall. But now is not only shooting and scoring more over the second half of the season, but we've seen him take some perimeter jumpers, hit some threes, shoot with the left hand on the drive, like right there. And Bond still fighting for the rebound, and then
Hunter throws it up. Quarterman out of his reach, but does enough to save it.
Shot Jalen Bond just took on the drive with the left hand off the dribble. Not a shot that he would have taken a couple of months ago.
No, and perhaps not a shot after he had that transition dunk, which gave him a bit of courage. Here's Capers.
Kevin upset, obviously, that he could not put that one down.
Quarterman off the pump fake on assignment from Portland. Has been with the Long Island Nets since the end of February. Bond transition. That needed a compass. Jovanovic, offensive rebounds. And he muscles his way for two.
A big man who can get up and down the floor like Jovanovic, skilled at 6'10" or 6'11". I think he could wind up putting up some numbers before the day is.
Conference semifinals starting early next week.
So Canton Fort Wayne still playing for seeding. Maine finally wrapping up the division over Delaware just last night. So things really going down to the wire in that Eastern race. This one pinballed around and reeled in by Carrick Felix. So it's been a quick pace for both teams, and neither team shooting very well despite the bevy of transition opportunities.
Maine, Canton, Fort Wayne, mainstays in the playoffs over the last 3 years. Each of those teams making at least 2 appearances in the postseason. And with Sioux Falls shifting from the Eastern Conference to the Western Conference, opening up a spot, and Raptors 905 in year 2, similar to what Westchester did between years 1 and 2, making the leap and making the playoffs. Another offensive rebound for Westchester, and Jovanovic was slapped across the arm. Derek Alston in the middle of the picture there, one of the assistant coaches carryover from last year, part of that playoff coaching staff.
Now, here he is, folks, ready to check in for the first time since the opener of the season. Max Hooper kneeling at the scorer's table just to our left. And he will see action for the first time since back in November as Jovanovic goes to the line with Westchester up 3. And, you know, we've got some interesting little tidbits about Mr. Hooper's collegiate career that you folks may not be aware of, that we were all set to use David back in the fall. We had to tuck those away. But you know what? We bring them out for Game 50.
Quarterman turns the corner up with the left hands. You never quite know when you're going to need a particular nugget. As Max Hooper joining the team just a few short days ago in Nashville, Tennessee, thinking that his season would continue to be over. 59 seconds, the clock will be reset to after the point-blank make, and there's a look at Max Hooper wearing blood jersey number 90 in his, I guess I'll call it spare time as of late. Started a podcast, Shooting the Breeze.
Nice.
He's coming after our jobs, and some of his guests early in the podcast history, former Westchester Nick and former teammate Devondrick Walker.
Okay.
Former collegiate teammate at Oakland, Kay Felder.
Okay.
Using those connections for the betterment of the podcast audience.
Kay Felder, who has put up some huge numbers in his abbreviated appearances here in the D-League this year, to the tune of about nearly 30 a game.
Jovanovic driving up with the right hand, out of control. Jarrell Reichel comes up with the rebound, and now the steal. 4-point lead. Westchester's taking control here in the first quarter.
Travis Trice, always great in these situations. Clock winding, end of the quarter.
6 seconds. Trice lost his footing, unloads it. Here's Hooper. Shot blocked. Trice there. And another block. Trice looking for a goaltending, but deemed to be this season. And also to thank all of the fans for coming to the County Center, for watching at home, following along on Facebook. With Joey Waller, David Resnick, our entire crew, wrapping up the 2016-2017 season. Game 50, and it's Westchester against Long Island. Joey Miller, Jarrell Reichel, Max Hooper, Jalen Bond, Nikola Jovanovic, the 5 on the floor for the Knicks. Jovanovic on the offensive glass.
Yeah, close to a goaltend, but clearly not.
Trevor Cooney firing from 3, and that rattles down for what I am told a Syracuse product.
How many times did we see him do that in a Carrier Dome game?
Some fans may argue not enough.
Oh, he had some huge games.
Sure did. Jovanovic pretty in the post.
You saying Cuse fans can be critical?
I mean, who isn't these days? Tim Quarterman crossover, gets to the paint, easy lay-in.
I mean, you had one of the dream runs, one of the unexpected runs to the Final Four a year ago, and then a rough start this season, and many wanted Boeheim out. Guy's only been there for 77 years.
He's trying to get to an even 80. Might have the chance.
Well, he's not going anywhere now.
3-point lead for Westchester early in the second quarter. Tim Quarterman also played on assignment with Windy City, the Chicago Bulls affiliate. Portland, one of the few teams without a D-League team who owns his NBA rights.
I'll tell you, the way he squeezed that pass in traffic looked like the T-shirt toss there.
Hooper from 3, still looking for his first points. He's played in 2 games, and he has bookended the season, game 1, now game 50.
A record in the D-League that can be tied but never broken, David. Well, the real interesting nugget about Mr. Hooper, which he has done countless interviews regarding. Played his college ball at Oakland. That's, of course, Oakland, Michigan, not California. Team's been to the NCAA tournament, so you're likely a little bit familiar with Oakland. There's Alexander against Jovanovic, and he's held, so he will go to the line. And Hooper, in his final season with Oakland, set the all-time Division I record for most points scored in a season without making a single two-point field goal. Every one of his baskets came from beyond the arc.
Quarterman puts his shoulder down. Cliff
Alexander with 12 already on 4 of 6 shooting. His team down 1.
Alexander, an absolute load, especially when he's playing hard.
Well, we may have been looking forward to little defense, but Mike Miller clearly has other ideas as Jovanovic misses from the foul line. He was grimacing a moment ago.
High off the glass, Carrick Felix puts it in. Brief stint with the Cleveland Cavaliers back in the 13-14 season. Somebody on the roster for Long Island with NBA experience. Defensive 3 seconds. Hassan Burrell gets called for staying in the paint. Technical free throw. Joey Miller ties the game up at 31.
So, folks, if you're joining us late, just 8 suited up today for either side because of late season injuries. No Inglis, no Jenkins, no Lamb, no Wafer, of course, who has been out for the last several weeks. The steal by Alexander has only Capers to beat as he fumbles.
Capers stands his ground.
That one just never really got off the ground, that transition breakout by the big fella. Cliff Alexander, who played his college ball at Kansas, left early, putting up those gaudy numbers this year of 20 points, nearly 10 rebounds a game.
Credit Capers for standing in against the 6'8", 239 Alexander. Wright recollects, goes to the tin and lays it in.
And there again, I have to say, as we did about Bond in the first quarter, that a move that we would not have seen from Keith Wright earlier this season has really expanded his game.
Felix from the outside, no. Reichel got his finger on it, but out of his reach. Now Burrell wide open, in and out on 3. Quarterman nearly got the offensive rebound, and Mike Miller perturbed in front of us throughout that entire sequence.
Yeah, he actually left the ground. He did a leap. He was so frustrated with the defense or lack thereof.
Joey Miller launching from 3.
Well, When your son hits a three on the offensive end, perhaps you feel a little less, as you put it, perturbed about what went on the defensive side.
Joey Miller, our halftime guest, as Cooney lets it fly for three.
Jerry Cooney still has the old wrist limbered up here in Game 50, huh, Dave?
Saw him working on it before the game. Circular motions. Well greased and ready to go. Miller driving. Alexander on his back, flying in his right. And a foul called against Cliff Alexander.
One thing that both Wright and Bond are good at, Wright did it there even though it didn't count, it was after the whistle, putting it home with the left hand. Both good with the left hand inside, and really if you're going to be a big offensive rebounder and you're going to be able to score inside in traffic, you really have to at this level be able to do it with either hand, and it seems like Bond and Wright have gotten better at that as the season has gone on. As right on cue, Jalen Bond and Travis Trice return, replacing Weichel and Jovanovic. Cooney out. Apparently that wrist needs a little rest over on the bench. And now Ronald Nored, I guess, leads Cooney in the game. Apparently Trevor was not supposed to come out.
Cooney has shot his way into this game, so.
Cooney's got 8. It's hit 3 of 3.
This game is available all throughout New York State. I'm sure there's a couple Orange fans that have by accidentally stumbled upon.
Oh, always. So many of you. It's a numbers game.
Follow
oh,
jam.
Wow.
Hello.
That looked a little late, no? Apparently not.
Never reset, really. I think the initial shot was hitting the rim in time. Nice follow jam for Sam Burrell. Loose ball gathered by Trevor Cooney. 6:25 to go. RJ Hunter back into the game and firing away without hesitation.
Neither team shooting well at all from three-point land. 3 of 11 for the Nets and 1 of 9 for the Knicks.
Travis Trice waits for the screen from Wright. Now Trice into an open paint, goes to the left hand. Keith Wright cleared the space, and Trice took advantage.
Speaking of using that offhand, Trevor doing it with the pretty move there. And then a good defensive play here.
Read it properly on the feet to Dallo. And now Trice, crossover, hangs, partially deflected, gets it on his back. And a kickball.
I didn't see that indication, did you?
One of the officials pointed down to his foot.
Trice passing up the open 3 momentarily. Challenging the big man here. Oh.
Dumps it off. One extra pass. Jalen Bond flushes it as Keith Wright made the headsy play.
Beautiful unselfishness that time by Westchester to regain the lead.
Double-double type afternoon with already 12 points and 5 rebounds, something that he has been known for the entire season.
Yeah, Jalen was hurt at the start of preseason practice, you'll recall, so got off to a bit of a slow start at the beginning of the year.
Hunter knocking down another 3, likes that right side, and Long Island has reclaimed the lead.
Seems like the season's really gone fast. Seems like we were just at preseason Westchester Nick Media Day, questioning the likes of guys like Chasen Randall, who are no longer here.
eBay the block, but it's a goaltend.
I guess the road travel by Chasen Randall is emblematic of what so often happens in the D-League. Looked like he would make the Knicks in preseason in New York. Hurt his eye socket. Started here in Westchester, played great. Hunter for 3, and he's got it. And his club regains the lead by 2. But, of course, then eventually not 1 but 2 10-day contracts. Then more twists and turns as he winds up getting a contract extension with the Sixers, did Randall David, only to be released a short time later and picked up by the Knicks. So he wound up coming full circle. And then we expected him to be in New York for the remainder of what's left of the season, only to have him come back and play in a game here last week. So it's almost like he was meant to finish out the year in orange and blue, both at the Garden and here at the County Center. It was destiny.
Just such an interesting system. Played 19 games as a Westchester Knick D-Leaguer, 1 game with the Westchester Knicks as a signee, played other games in the D-League on assignment from Philadelphia for Delaware. He has played in a number of jerseys under a set of different contracts. Trevor Cooney, another 3. A 4-for-4 start for Trevor Cooney, including 3 triples. Keith Wright cannot answer. R.J. Hunter has 3 triples as well. He's pulling up. Nearly had a 4th. Kevin Capers running. Joey Miller stripped from behind, but it's right to Bonds and a nice floater.
Well, haven't seen many floaters from Jalen, so continues to show us the entire bag of tricks. 16 points. And he's going to be closing in on his D-League career high here.
Trevor Cooney from deep. Another 3-pointer.
In New York, I'll tell you, I think it's the presence of fellow Orange alums like yourself that got the guy fired up.
Westchester has only hit 1 3-pointer. Cooney and Hunter, all 7 of the 3-point makes from Long Island. Offensive 3 seconds, Nikola Jovanovic. Trevor Cooney averaging about 2 points per game already with 14 in this first half, while R.J. Hunter, 18 a contest, he's got 9.
And because of Cooney heating up, Long Island now 7 of 16 from 3. Westchester just 1 out of 10.
Under 3 minutes to go. Hunter fading away. Jalen Bond comes down with the miss.
So Bond's got 16 points here in this opening half, David. His career high 21.
So leading into halftime, Joey Waller will speak with Mike Miller. And then I had the opportunity to speak with Joey Miller prior to the game, an interview that will air during halftime. Jalen Bonds with 18 first half points. Trice on Cooney. Now Cooney driving baseline and a whistle.
Trevor Cooney, keep in mind, folks, for the season this year for Long Island is averaging 3 points per game. 3. He now has 14 in this one.
That's basketball, Joey.
Just never can tell, David.
No.
Cooney going with the relaxed hair look.
What would Marshall Plumlee say about that?
That is a contrast in use of gel between
Yes.
those two, no question.
4-point lead for Long Island. 2 minutes to go first half. Bonds, no. Jovanovic called for the loose ball foul. Did not have position and pushed a net. Capers out on Hunter, tries to split the defense. Hunter still maintaining control.
Wow, how do you stay with it?
Just flipped it, got it back, and cans a three. He kept it alive by flicking it to Felix, who gave it right back to him for his fourth three-pointer of this first half.
Looked like some sort of a dribbling drill that time. And it was a dribbling clinic, as it turned out. And Hunter able to hit in the corner.
The basketball version of a tip drill, right?
Yeah, exactly. So 12 points now for Hunter to go along with Cooney with 16, Alexander with 12. They've been a three-man show.
Trice over dribbled. Hunter comes up with it. The threaded bounce pass is picked off. Trice throws to Bond. A one-handed alley-oop slam.
20 points in this first half for Bond, one shy of his career high for a game, and none prettier than those.
We've seen Bond on multiple occasions run the floor. Alexander flips it back in off glass. The lead is 7 for Long Island down the stretch here. Travis Trice bounces it to Bond. Long Island clears the miss, pushing the other way with a half minute to go. Trailer, why not? Cliff Alexander hits from the outside, and the lead is 10. Shot clock is turned off. Westchester trying to take the final shot of the half. Led by 4 after the first quarter, trailing here by 10. Trice works with Jovanovic, powers his way inside for 2. Into Hunter, 3/4 court. It's off the backboard. The bucket.
The sign
Right.
that you've become part of the furniture, at least on a temporary basis.
If your stint is too quick, we might not torture you during halftime. Maybe they should feel lucky for that. I'm not sure. Boris Dallo opens up the scoring for Long Island. Lead is back to 10. And getting those names together by looking through the entire season stats of all players, not just the active ones. And it might be natural to think, as Kevin Capers hits a three, that 26 is an absorbent number, but it's pretty much in line with what you'll see from every other team.
Yeah, I believe when I checked recently that Long Island had right around the same, within 1 or 2 players, so it is pretty much the norm.
Dallo from deep raises the iron.
So we're going to name our MVP, right?
We are. We're going to spend the next series of TV timeouts coming out from those to fuel our discussion. Have some candidates in mind, players that lasted throughout the entire season. We'll give you a couple of candidates, and if you want to write in, I leave that to you as well.
So is that the criteria for MVP? You have to still be here, yeah?
Well, it was a way to pare down the list and at least focus. We didn't really say had to play a minimum of games, but we have 3 categories coming up. MVP, most improved. The lob to the rim, Hunter to Burrell. And also a category, I believe, best in-season acquisition.
Okay. I think that's an easy one. Well, actually, that's not an easy one. There's 2 candidates there.
Hunter tees it up, got it.
No defense. And as a result, Long Island starting to get easier and easier looks at the basket here. This, what we saw during the latter stages of the opening half, as they go up 10 again.
15 points for Hunter, one of 4 players on the floor for Long Island in double figures. The entry pass to Bond is disrupted. Burrell, look-away pass, the cutting Dallo, and a miscommunication.
And now 10 of 21 for Long Island, on fire from 3, whereas Westchester's just 2 of 12.
Saw peeking through the traffic was Rob Astorino sitting baseline in that black Westchester Knicks jacket. The Westchester County executive involved with this franchise really since day one. Part of the announcement, has welcomed fans on the opening game, I believe, all 3 seasons, and now taking in Fan Appreciation Day on this Saturday afternoon. Backcourt violation.
I think one of the things that we've seen out of this Westchester team, David, compared with last year, one of the differences, and of course there are always differences year to year in the D-League, personnel-wise, et cetera, but one of the big differences is a lot of really good role players on this year's team, but it's been almost entirely a team of role players for the most part. Jenkins has been here for a stretch now, and we mentioned some of the other guys that were here earlier, Randall, even Rashad Vaughn on loan from the Milwaukee Bucks, who really wowed the crowd during his couple of brief stints here with his athleticism and inside-out game. Here's a steal and a foul as Burrell is reached in on. But I think this team lacks the firepower, certainly, that last year's did from an offensive standpoint, from a star standpoint, if you will. And, of course, those stars are harder to come by. But to their credit, I think guys like Bond, Wright, Capers, Jordan Crawford, who were expected to play more of a secondary role, have at times been able to step up and go beyond that. As bottled up inside at first is Alexander, but then off to follow, Dallo, which rhymes with follow, able to hit.
Always the wordsmith.
I try.
12-point lead, Long Island. Largest of the afternoon, Travis Trice through the legs. Cannot get the friendly bounce as Cliff Alexander claims the rebound. Trevor Cooney, now Burrell firing away. Miller, catch and shoot from deep.
And we started to touch on it the other night, David, the presence of Joey Miller. He's sort of emblematic of how fast this season has gone by, because it seems like, doesn't it almost seem like it was like a month ago that he joined the team? Guys played in a little over half the games.
25 today?
Something like that, yeah. I'd have to check again. It's like 25, 6, 7, something like that.
Yeah, it's incredible. He was picked up after Chasen Randall got the call from Philadelphia to join the NBA.
And 25 games now for Joey Miller. Half the season.
Keith Wright on the reverse. And Miller, initially a practice player, then filled a role on the roster, and injuries happened and season happened and just kept finding his way on the team. Turnover back to Westchester.
And, we started to mention last game that while he is obviously Coach Mike Miller's son, if he couldn't compete at this level and at least hold his own, he would not be here very long. So it stands to reason that he has at least done that. He's gotten more comfortable, more confident, and a little more productive as time has gone on.
Capers bodied up by Cooney, playing straight up.
I've also got to believe that the presence of Travis Trice in recent weeks, being able to play with and against a guy like that in practice every day, has helped Joey's game. As Trice is tripped up and fortunately was able to use his hands to break the fall. Look at a guy like Trice, who last year was a guy that developed more and more as the year went along, and now he returns late this season kind of as more of the finished product. We're getting the Trice immediately that we got toward the end of last year with shots like that, as Travis comes up with the perimeter shot for his 9th point of the day. And it shows a drastic difference in that young man's game between last year and this.
Second full year as a pro. Also that off season between your first and second year where you don't have to worry about the draft. You're not shuttled around everywhere for draft workouts, really able to focus on improving your game and getting better.
It's also, when you look at Kevin Capers, an example of how not only can a D-League player's fortunes change during the course of a season, but their role in a dramatic way. This is a guy who's been not just a shooting guard, but a backup shooting guard for the most part for the better part of 2 years, and then suddenly becomes the starting point guard earlier this season.
Bond in the post against Burrell. Still scoreless in the second half after 20 in the first. It's knocked out of bounds by Long Island. Ronald Norred wanted a shot clock violation. Capers underneath.
Able to stay with it, even though the pass was a little bit off the mark. Either that or he just couldn't.
On the floor, and Damian Inglis. Do you have a thought of those three? Perhaps somebody else comes to mind?
Should I cast my vote now, or do we want to drag this out?
No, this is part of our segment discussion.
Okay. Well, Lamb has had his moments and has certainly played some of his best basketball down the stretch here in recent games. Has had a very solid season, as you get another look here at Capers taking the bump, and that's something Kevin has not been shy about doing, his credit, during the course of the year, despite his slight frame, able to absorb those hits. I think it's really between Wright and Inglis. Now, Trice to the bucket, sees the opening, and then is fouled, so he will go to the line. I think it's very close. I think it's very close. And Wright has really, it's interesting because Wright got off to kind of a quiet start, didn't always get the playing time earlier this year. He's come on more lately, whereas Inglis has just been steady as she goes during the course of the season, often almost in methodical or quiet fashion, putting up the numbers that he has. But I think because of the all-around game and the consistency, I'd have to go with Damian Inglis now. I'm wondering, and this is by no means a criticism of you, of course, Mr. Resnick, but I'm wondering why, unlike for the Oscars,
what was the window?
If I may make such a comparison, which I think is more than fair.
I thought you were more of a Golden Globes kind of guy.
Actually, not much of an award show guy at all. I have a 2-point game hero, by the way. But I would have thought we would have saved MVP for last, no?
Interesting thought. Interesting thought. Well, it's also the idea. Let's make sure we get it in.
Okay.
In the broadcast.
Okay,
you know,
that's the practical side of you that everyone loves. We all love that.
I mean, really, what's the buildup? I mean, we already had 49 and a half games of buildup. What's an extra quarter?
I mean, if we give most improved last, it's kind of like, giving best foreign sound editing last.
That's next,
Academy
so
Awards.
It's like the best animated film. On the drive is Carrick Felix. I think your point about Inglis is very interesting. As Trice misses, Bond, the tap out collected by Capers. Maybe it's a recency effect. I just think, Keith has just been a pro all year long. And as Bond makes it 22, his playing time and his position was severely affected when Endor and Plumlee came down, and it never really seemed to affect the way that he played off the bench or the next game. And his veteran leadership in the system and on the team as a multi-year pro. Thought Keith Wright was a real solid player this year for the Knicks.
So that's your vote.
Going against the numbers, more of an intangible type feel thing.
The eye test, if you will.
Well, I need glasses to see, so I don't know if my eyes should be trusted.
Now, who shall cast the dissenting voter, or are we going to finish at a tie?
Oh, this is just.
It's for if I'm taking it too seriously.
Yeah, game 50 fodder.
Loosen up, Waller.
Yeah.
All right, so one down. MVP, we finish in a tie between.
That's right.
Wright and Inglis. So now we have most improved, and what are we calling the third one?
Best in-season
acquisition. Okay.
Which under other circumstances, that winner, you would probably make a case also for team MVP. if we finagled the rules a little bit.
Right.
4:10 to go in the third. Trice falling away. Burrell claims the rebounds. He'll bring it end-to-end, accelerate against Wright. Count it, +1, as Burrell goes flying into the first row after the made bucket.
And one of the camera people behind the basket, fortunately saying he's okay, as a few of the Long Island players check with him. Very nice of them to do that. As Burrell made a terrific move, and he will head to the line. So we have still a very competitive ball game here in game number 50. But what's the format now? Are we trudging on, or we're going to save the next category?
Saving the next category,
Okay.
spacing it out a little
All right.
bit. And listen, you're not a handheld camera operator until you get trucked. So tip of the cap to our cameraman on the baseline.
Got to take that first hit, like the
No
start
question.
of football training camp.
That's right. He's now ready to go. Unfortunately, there's no season left. Stays with Westchester. Just like that, after the completion of the three-point play, it's a 7-point game. And Boris Dallo.
See, because now that we've given MVP, and with most improved up next, well, naturally Keith Wright is going to be a contender for that as well. We've kind of let the cat out of the bag a little bit.
I don't think he's a candidate.
Okay. Well, that certainly turns the tide. Well, how about this mad scramble? Rochelle not able to beat the shot clock, not able to hit anyone.
Distributed the wealth there. I don't think anybody appears in more than one category.
Oh,
Just
we
so
have different candidates.
Yeah, just so that we can
Okay, so Wright will not be
talk
eligible.
about different players.
Okay, interesting. Interesting.
As somebody that was more of an established veteran, his improvement was probably more marginal as Quarterman goes to the rim than
Okay.
a younger player or a first-year pro.
Gotcha. Max Hooper getting set to make his return. Of course, he's already made his return between Game 1 and Game 50, but it's more of an in-game return.
He would earn best cameo of the season, right?
The Alfred Hitchcock Award.
Best cameo in a motion picture, right?
You know that Alfred Hitchcock used to make a cameo at each of his movies. And so Max Hooper.
I only know that
Would be a
because
candidate.
you said it once over the course of the last 2 seasons.
Is that right?
I take notes, Joey. I
Interesting.
take notes.
I didn't recall mentioning that. Okay. Well, apparently
Maybe
I now.
off air, maybe.
It may have been. Apparently.
Everything is written down.
Well, the bottom line is you've now known me long enough that the stories are being recycled.
Oh,
at this
no.
point.
Oh, no. What's
Starting
in store?
again. We're starting again from the beginning of the rotation.
Reichel having trouble handling the ball here in the third quarter. Crisp ball movement to the outside, and now it's picked off. Hunter outraces Trice for the flush.
Hunter's had a good ball game. Now has 17. He's one of 4 in double figures.
Most from beginning to end.
Well, Plumlee and Endor have both certainly shown skills here that they don't normally show in New York, if only because they don't get the playing time. Travis Trice with the fairly uncontested shot, so he now has 13. So Endor and Plumlee have both put up solid, if unspectacular, numbers here in the D-League this year along those lines, showing more offense than they normally would in New York. A rejection here by Jovanovic. Nice play. So then we have Capers and Baum. And we don't want another tie. Let's try to avoid that.
Okay. We could talk this out. Good defense there by Jovanovic.
Yeah. It's a close one again between Capers and Baum. They've both come on late in the season. I would be tempted to give them a tie. Oh, look out. Here we go.
Trice with numbers, and he gets it just over the rim. And a big smile from Travis.
Now, do you think it slipped? What happened there? Did he want to dunk?
I think dunking is not a forte, and he really tried.
Okay.
Cliff Alexander, excuse me, that's Prince eBay just pushing Jovanovic out of the way.
Some guys don't get a good enough grip on the basketball.
No.
So Capers.
So here's my thinking, because you're wavering.
Okay.
my thought is
there's some decisiveness.
Bond played one position, got better, expanded his game within the context of a power forward spot. But for Kevin Capers, who his entire collegiate and professional career playing the two, to transform his game and really learn a new position, to me that shows the greatest improvement, because he had to learn something and do something. Pretty move, Travis Trice, that he wasn't naturally able or asked to do.
You know what, you've sold me.
Okay.
That's a very effective argument there, Counsel.
Thankfully, we have a jury of one. Tied up and a jump ball. But I think Bond has done a really nice job of expanding his offensive repertoire, being able to step out to 8.
See what Max has got here.
Well, that's a jump for the ages. Hooper, a three.
So first the jump ball and then the jumper. Max Hooper getting into the scoring column off the quick release. One of the things that he worked on during the course of the preseason when he was here with Westchester, as you know, Dave, was trying to get that shot off against better, more athletic competition here at this level. Allen Houston had a hand in trying to work with Max on that. And again, a clock check by the officials as Westchester has moved to within 2, and they put exactly 1 minute back on this third quarter clock.
6 of one, half dozen of the other. But officially, it's 1 minute, not 60 seconds.
Cooney, by the way, with 16, has a new career high as he fires and misses here.
Westchester with a chance to tie. Second foul under 2 minutes. Quarterman commits the personal. So Joey Miller to the free throw line with 3/4 of a minute to go. Fourth game of the season between Westchester and Long Island. All 3 games won by the home team. Long Island playing their home games this year in Brooklyn. Their new home in Nassau County is ready to go, and they'll make the transition to their new home next year. And so it'll truly be a battle of the Burbs, 2017-2018. Tied at 83, Westchester has climbed back from a 12-point disadvantage. Dallo, catch and shoot, a 3, and the foul. Boris Dallo, a rainbow shot from the outside, and a chance at a 4-point play.
And that one getting about as much of a rise to the crowd as we've seen all day long. Seen and heard. Crowd waiting to really explode for the first time today, I think, Dave. They are hearing good numbers, one of the better crowds of the season, particularly, I think, during the second half of the year here at the County Center. Game 50, season wrapping today, folks, if you're joining us late at home. So both teams looking to end on a winning note.
Trice into Jovanovic. Banked it in.
Dave passing up on the temptation to say the bank is open on Sunday. See, that's a man who's been through 50 games. You've obviously used that one in some form a couple of times already.
I was going to say early afternoon hours on a Saturday, but you know.
That's right. I'm thinking it's Sunday for some reason.
If you don't get your mail today, that's a problem, you know. 4.2 on the clock. Long Island holding on to a 2-point lead.
So another trip to the foul line for Long Island in a game in which We have only had 25 free throws combined between the two teams. That's a pretty tame number for this point of the ball game. Quarterman on the day has been tame himself, only 6 points. Can often fill up the stat sheet in several ways as Jovanovic picks it up. Jovanovic, who, as we've pointed out before, looks a lot like Danilo Gallinari for the New York Knicks, at least facially.
Reichel has the rebound. He lets it fly. Online.
I think the fact that he has the 3 numbers on the uniform as opposed to 2 shows his lofty status with the franchise.
We're still looking to get a t-shirt, let alone a 3-number jersey. With Joey Waller, David Resnick, final 12 minutes of the 3rd season of Westchester Knicks basketball. Joey Miller, long rebound, up with one hand, gets his own miss. He's stripped and a foul. Miller had a clean look at the basket. He's got 10 and frustrated with himself for not converting. That's a season high for Joey, previous of 7. First time this year in 25 games in double figures.
Jalen Bond earlier reaching a career high with 22.
Jovanovic on the drive. Pretty finish. Tied up at 87.
Well, I thought Jovanovic would have a nice game today, and he has 14 points, 7 boards.
Had an interesting discussion prior to Thursday's game. Brendan Malone, a longtime NBA figure, spent time on the bench with the New York Knicks as well. Now with the Detroit Pistons organization, lives locally, so he's come to a lot of the games. And Jovanovic was a player in their system for most of the year. And he said the next step for Jovanovic this summer, work on his shot, become a true stretch 4 as he fumbles the pass there and tried to set up Miller on the cut. And so Jovanovic, in Malone's estimation, needs to become more of an outside threat because he doesn't quite have the size to play solely on the inside at the next level. Felix in the paint. Quarterman dribbles it out to space. Cooney tees it up. In and out.
Scott for the rebound there did Nikola.
Westchester looking for the lead. Extra pass, Hooper open for 3. Jovanovic and a foul.
Well, Jovanovic has had some nice moments with Westchester since being picked up in recent weeks, but we haven't seen the consistency. Put up some okay numbers as a reserve earlier in the year with Fort Wayne, or Grand Rapids rather, right?
He filling the role of the departed Mike Davis. And when you're the backup center for this Westchester Knicks team, and the 2 primary assignment players are bigs, your time gets limited when they are sent down.
However, that did not stop you from interviewing both Nikola Jovanovic and Mike Davis as part of your halftime
It's a
feature
long
this
season.
year.
I mean, if you think about it.
Are you saying they didn't deserve to be interviewed?
I thought perhaps were you suggesting that? 26 players over 24 home games.
See, I think, no question. I think sometimes it's more interesting to interview those backup guys because they don't get as much attention. Find out some things you didn't know.
Interviewed Chasen Randall a couple times. Should also note he was Performer of the Week earlier in the year, becoming the 2nd Westchester Knick to earn that distinction. So
great talker, Chasen Randall.
He is, filling that stereotypical Stanford persona quite well.
Lopez brothers, great talkers.
Yes.
Brooke and Robin from Stanford.
Collier brothers. Reichel takes it to the hoop.
Oh, with the left hand that time. And so Reichel, who has not done much scoring in his couple of games here, as you would expect, being brand new for the last couple of games of the season. Tough spot for him. Got to make him feel good to at least get a little action out there.
Capers gets mauled.
So the Knicks have gone up 4 here, David, trying to end on a winning note. They come in at 19 and 30, so looking for victory number 20. Jovanovic with 16 and 10 today off the bench.
Capers wedged it between the rim and the backboard. It's a 4-point game as Quarterman misses on a 3. Knicks trail by 12 in the third quarter, and now Miller has his shot blocked as he takes a tumble after the release.
So Trevor Cooney will return. As you see Miller taking it to the bucket. Been very active today, Joey Miller. Mentioned he's got the career high in scoring with 10. Turned away there.
That was eBay on the block. Pick and roll. Right inside. Left-handed. No. Missed the bunny. Dallo using the screen with 9 minutes to go. Here's Hunter. He has been outstanding from beyond the three-point arc.
Yeah, Hunter now with 20. And entering today, averaging 18 a game, so he has now surpassed that. And we have a 1-point game. Shell trying to do it off the dribble again.
Defensive foul. Reichel taking it to the rim. So under 9 to go.
I don't think Travis has been here long enough. I know you were trying to just fill out the bracket there with his presence, right?
No, I mean, it's 10 games. That's 20% of the season.
All right.
High impact, double figures in each of his games.
Okay, your
There are no token candidates here, sir.
All right. Your counter argument's been very strong. To me, it's Wafer or Jenkins. Now, Jenkins has put up the biggest numbers over the longest stretch out of those three. Trevor Cooney, by the way, adding to his career high total today, now has 18, as he has tied the game with just over 8 to go. And Trice is fouled. So here's how I look at it, and I'm going to, you talked earlier about going with feel.
Sure.
I have no numbers to base this on. It seems to me that while Jenkins' numbers are bigger for the season than Wafer's, it seems there was a stretch there where Wafer's numbers contributed more to victories, or at least to strong performances. It seems like he was doing it more during a stretch of the season as Wright goes in and hits and the foul, so he'll try to complete the three-point play. It just seems like his big performances, and he had about a 3 or 4 week stretch, I would say, where he played his best basketball of the season, Vaughn did. It seems like it was more in a winning cause than in Jenkins' case, where it seems that a lot of his big games, not his fault, of course, came in losses. And so I'm going to go with Wafer.
Totally on board.
Okay, interesting.
Drive to the rim. Alexander misses.
A little boring, perhaps, but interesting nonetheless.
As we said, nothing manufactured. Capers misses. Weak side rebound. Bonds up with it. No. And I think if Fells would have lasted another week, that Fells-Wafer discussion would have been very interesting, because they both fit a similar type of wing role and carried the team at times, the way you described the role that Wafer played shortly after coming over in December.
Yeah. Nice move. Trice not able to hit, and Alexander, who we have not heard much from since the opening half.
Burrell on the drive. should say the cut after taking the pass. Trice in the front court. Too tall for Bond, and Miller couldn't save it. He whacked it off of Cooney, but too late.
Travis Trice today has 17 and 9, so even on a day when he's had a relatively quiet performance, it would seem, he's put up big numbers. So, I mean, again, it's too bad that we didn't get to see Travis for more of the season this year. Played overseas for much of the year.
Cooney driving. Bit of a wild shot. Trice into the front court. Capers fumbled with it. He's right on the block. Jovanovic follows.
And this now qualifying as one of Jovanovic, well, I would say Jovanovic's best game for Westchester game. 18 and 12 off the bench. He shot 7 of 9.
Hunter to Alexander. A rim rocker and a 30-second timeout taken by Mike Miller. So Westchester leading by 3 has figured out a formula that works for assignment players, that really plays into the idea that everything is so close to each other. So if eligible players to be sent down on assignment are in the area, you have them come play. And I think Maurice Endor and Marshall Plumlee really embraced that opportunity. Reichel from the outside, no. The rebound down to Dallo. Burrell patiently waits for Reichel to fly by, and the layup to pull Long Island to within 1. Cooney stands his ground. 5:35 to go in a 1-point game.
Capers trying to set it up.
Bond on the block, up with the left. Well off the mark.
Jalen with only 2 points in the second half, 20 in the first.
Cooney off the iron. Alexander weak side. Puts Long Island back on top. And this draws a full timeout from Mike Miller. Wonderful people behind the camera that do their very best to make us on camera look good.
Yeah, a lot of hard work goes into this that people don't see or hear about. So, chance in game 50 to give them a tip of the cap, making our jobs easier and making us seem smart and knowledgeable, which sometimes we are. Sometimes.
Anything we say wrong, we blame it on them. It's easy.
But, you know, you think about it, and normally the stuff we talk about, we almost always have the pictures to match the talk. As Bond misses inside and off the rebound battle, it is Long Island that comes away now with a 1-point lead.
Almost had a chance to increase it. Burrell misses. And after everything we've talked about the season at large, here we are on the final day of the regular season and a 1-point game with under 5 to go. The lead back to Westchester as we buckle up for an exciting finish.
And credit these teams not just with playing hard and playing well on this final day, Dave, but I have to admit this is not the kind of game I was expecting, and I think you as well. We thought it would be more of a shootout, up and down, more schoolyard ball on the final day, but teams have buckled down, and I think that's largely because of the two coaches not allowing them to just go out there and do whatever they want today.
It almost had the feel of an all-star game. And
early,
then
yeah.
When you have the game in hand, all of a sudden these professionals and the competitors and say, hold on a second. You might not care, but I do. Mm-hmm. And so typically what you'll see in an all-star game is things in the final minutes or so get tight, and it's really been that way for the entire second half, and maybe even dating back to the second quarter, where players are contesting fouls and diving after loose balls and really entertaining a near-capacity crowd this afternoon in the county center.
Mm-hmm.
Long Island first to 100. Most likely won't be enough. Thrown inside, intercepted. Hunter. And Long Island is able to extend the lead with Hunter getting to the 10. Trice, step back, left it short. Thrown up, broken up. Good hustle play by Capers, but Hunter recovers as he now has 24. 102.99, 3.25 minutes to go. Dallo on the drive. Bangs it off the backboard and in.
So Long Island making the bigger plays these last few trips. Trying to end their season on a winning note. They come in with only 16 wins against 33 defeats.
Trice weaving into the paint. Kick out to Joey Miller. Trice pump fakes. On the return feed with just 4 on the timer. Pivots away from Cooney. Loose ball taken by Burrell.
And a great job by Cooney there, really bottling up Trice, and now Trice and Bond sandwiching Burrell at a foul. And actually a timeout called, I'm sorry.
So
we've got OKC, LA, Rio Grande, and Santa Cruz with Sioux Falls out.
Amazing.
Yeah, so if you're asking me for a championship pick,
here's Trice after the steal. Dumps it inside to Bond. Extra feed, Jovanovic. Nicely done.
And then Jovanovic going up strong. He's got 22 and 14 here today. A glimpse into the kind of performance he can put up as he moves the Knicks within 3. Even if only because of my increased familiarity with them, Dave, I'd have to go with Raptors 905. They've really had a great year.
They weren't on pace throughout the entire year, so there wasn't talk. As Alexander gets stuffed, they were 1 win shy of Sioux Falls' record a year ago. It's incredible. 39 wins. Capers, he's rejected by Cooney as both teams making defensive stops on consecutive possessions.
How about Trevor Cooney, known for the offense, but coming up with a couple of big defensive performances here down the stretch.
Long Island spreads the floor. 8 on the timer. Alexander against Capers. Burrell in the paint, smooth for 2. Timeout Mike Miller as Westchester trails by 5.
And Burrell has been tough, 17.
Coming out of an Eastern Conference that Sioux Falls won it last year.
And a good defensive team is Toronto.
Trice, circus shot through contact. Alexander, the rebound up to Felix. Numbers for Long Island, and Capers commits the foul.
Of course, this Long Island franchise, Dave, come next season will move from Brooklyn to its proper home at the new Nassau Coliseum. Play their home games there. This year, for the most part, they played with no crowd being admitted because of those afternoon games at Barclays Center in downtown Brooklyn. Games played prior to Brooklyn Net games, of course. Kind of well, certainly an unorthodox situation, but really a tough way to begin the year out of necessity. So come next season, Westchester will twice make the trek out to, is it Uniondale or Hempstead? I think it's Uniondale, right?
And also for a preseason game as well. Return trip from the preseason game here in White Plains earlier this season. So final minute of regulation, Trice struggling here in the 4th. Playing extended minutes with only 8 available. Burrell out to Cooney, who wisely pulls it out. Burrell jiving with it. Step back, Burrell to seal it.
And he has had a big second half here to lead his team into what now is a 10-point lead.
Tristan Burrell makes it a 10-point lead with 38 seconds to go. Between the legs, step back for 3 against Jovanovic. And that should wrap up the season series for Long Island, taking 3 of 4 in the inaugural year of the Battle of the Birds.
Delay of game warning, hence the free throw by, or delay of game call, hence the free throw by Capers. So Alexander with 27 points, 15 boards. 24 for Hunter, 20 and 9 for Burrell, 18 for Cooney. Dallo a double-double with 12 and 10 for Long Island as Miller misses in and out, and off the rebound battle, we have a call going the other way.
So Westchester playing with 8 players tonight, only 6 of them seeing action in 3 or more games this season.
So Jovanovic ends the season on a high note, Dave, 22 and 14. Trice another good performance, 17 points, 10 assists. 22 and 10 for Bond, who has a career-high game to end his year. And Burrell will go to the line with his team up 9 with 28 ticks to go. Well, David, thank you very much for not just the broadcast partnership, but a lot of laughs.
Yes.
We really had fun.
I would agree, and you took the sentiments. At this point, we're doing a good job completing each other's thoughts. So it's been great fun, and appreciate both the partnership and the friendship.
Same here.
And we will have to resume our pregame meals next fall.
I will see you right back here in about 7 months for a salted pretzel upstairs.
Burrell rattles in another 3. Exclamation point for Long Island. Final 10 seconds of the season. Kevin Capers wants to get the shot off. He does, and it is no good. 116.